Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. I'm Frank Granito and I'm joined in studio today on Monday, October 3rd by Donald Eng. Don, how was your weekend?
That was a pretty exuberant join. That was pretty good. Weekend was great. I wish the weather had been a little bit better. Hit the local Connecticut wine trail, celebrating my 15th wedding anniversary. So it was all in all a good weekend. Can't complain.
A lot of fun. It was a very busy sports weekend too, Don. We had 3 top 10 matchups in college football, some monumental retirements, baseball's final weekend, and in my opinion, most importantly, the Ryder Cup, the U.S. finally winning back the cup, arguably the biggest U.S. win since the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, I would probably argue World War II, but it's debatable. If 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. The Ryder Cup is always a lot of fun because golf, by its very nature, is an individual sport. And when you see the players getting together in a kind of a team format, it's a unique experience for them. It's unique for us, really. It's just it's one of those really fun events that happen every 2 years.
And that's a great way to put it. It is a really fun event. Not everyone the biggest fan of golf, but just the emotion that's on display. The fans get so into it. I mean, half the time it just looked like a giant tailgate out there with the chanting and everything, but it was great. Only the 3rd time in the last 12 years that the U.S. has won. They had lost the last 3, so it was awesome to see the United States win the cup back, and we look forward to seeing them try to retain it in 2018 when it goes to Paris. But let's get started with our FCAC action, and we'll start with the HAN Network's Athlete of the Week presented by Runner's Roost. Friday afternoon on FCAC Tailgate, we announced our winners for the Week 2 Athlete of the Week, and they were Maggie O'Gorman of the Greenwich Field Hockey Team, who was also the leading vote getter with over 800 votes, as she was named our Female Athlete of the Week, and Anthony Oliveros of the Stanford Boys Soccer Team, who received over 650 votes to edge out Trumbull's Johnny McElroy to be named the Week 2 Male Athlete of the Week, presented by Runner's Roost.
Yes, Maggie O'Gorman with the hat trick scored the game-winning goal as the Cardinals beat Norwalk 5-4 on Friday. The winning goal came with 7:22 remaining in overtime after the teams had shifted to the 7-on-7 format. O'Gorman also had an assist for Greenwich, which handed Norwalk its first loss of the season. For the boys, it was Anthony Oliveros scoring 3 goals to lead Stanford past Brian McMahon 4-2. Oliveros is a senior forward, broke a 2-2 tie with his second goal of the game late in the first half, then completed the hat trick with an insurance goal in the second half.
Congratulations to both Maggie and Anthony. Really awesome to see how many votes we had again for the second straight week. Let's move on to our Week 3 nominees. And Don, because our mothers raised us to be gentlemen, let's introduce the ladies first.
Yes, our first nominee, Andrea O'Connor, Stanford volleyball player, had 23 kills in Stanford's 3-2 triumph over Darien. She also had a block that supplied the winning point in the 3rd set, which Stanford won 27-25. Lindsay Graves of Wilton Soccer, a sophomore, scored 4 goals in 2 days for Wilton. Groves had 2 goals in a 3-1 win over Ward on Tuesday, then accounted for both the goals in a 2-1 win over Ludlow on Thursday. Our next nominee is Lindsay Savko of St. Joseph's Soccer. She scored both the cadets' goals as they came from behind to defeat the Staples Wreckers 2-1 Thursday in Westport. First goal coming just 1:02 before halftime and knotted the score at 1-1. She then nailed the game winner on a header with 13:29 remaining. St. Joseph unbeaten at 7-0-1. The next nominee is McMahon soccer player Chloe Ortolano. Scored 2 goals to lead the Senators to a 6-2 victory over Bridgeport Central. McMahon improves to 3-4 on the season. And our final female nominee, Trumbull field hockey player Hannah Hogan. She scored 2 goals and added an assist in the Eagles' 3-1 win over Fairfield Ward as Trumbull improved to 5-2.
Thank you, Don. Now taking a look at the male nominees for Week 3, we start at the Trumbull Boys Soccer Team with Chris Lancia. Lancia had 3 points on 2 goals and 1 assist as the Eagles defeated the Danbury Hatters by a score of 4-1 in a battle of unbeaten teams last Wednesday in Danbury. Lancia's assist came on a goal by Jason Weinstein, helped give the Eagles a 2-0 lead in the first half. Lancia then added a pair of goals in the second half to nail down the victory. Trumbull moves to 6-0-2, Danbury falling to 7-1-1. Shane Palmer of the Ridgefield football team rushed 11 times for 140 yards as the Ridgefield Tigers rolled over Norwalk by a score of 43-0 on Friday. Palmer set the tone right away with a 69-yard touchdown rush on the first play of the game Richfield improved to 3-1 with the win. Spencer Mead of the Danbury High cross country team finished first when the Hatters swept New Canaan, Trumbull, and Ridgefield in last week's meet at Waveney Park. Mead's time of 16:30 over the 5,000-meter course was best by 8 seconds in the win for the Hatters. Matt DeLisa, who played in our game of the week against Fairfield Ludlow for the Wilton High team, ran for 3 touchdowns when the Warriors improved to 3-1 with a 34-7 win over the Falcons. DeLisa scored on runs of 1 yard, 9 yards in the second quarter, and had a 3-yard touchdown run in the final quarter before exiting the game with a cramp. He had 92 yards on the ground, accounting for over 50% of the Warriors' offense. And finally, Kevin Iobi of the Greenwich High football team rushed for 4 touchdowns in the Cardinals' 49-22 win over Bridgeport Central. Greenwich improved to 3-1 with the win. Iobi scored on runs from 1 yard, 48 yards, 19 yards, and another 48-yarder in the first half. So there are 10 total athletes to vote for our Week 3 Athlete of the Week presented by Runner's Roost. Voting will be open through Sunday night, and we will announce the winners on Nutmeg Sports of Tuesday next week at the start of the show. Don, great group of characters to vote for this year. Tremendous athletes. I really like the fact that we've got our first cross-country nominee on the board here.
Yeah, you know, there are so many fall sports, and it's good to see nominees from kind of across the spectrum. It's really a lot of fun. Some impressive soccer play, some impressive runners, field hockey. You know, you got the whole spectrum, in addition to, of course, the football. And
it'll be interesting to see if this is the week that maybe a football player breaks through. Up to date, it's been 2 boys soccer players who have dominated a much larger variety of football player nominees, as it's been Pablo Martinez and Anthony Oliveros who have come away with it. We've had a girls soccer winner and now a field hockey winner on the girls side. Volleyball, I think this could be the week we see a volleyball girl take it. Yeah,
this could be the week we see a volleyball player, and you know, it's kind of strange to say. Could this be the week that a football player breaks through in the fall season? So you know, get your votes in. It's always you know, it's just as we've always said, it's kind of the most rewarding aspect of the week when people really get involved and get behind a lot of these athletes. You know, that is why we do it.
And we've had a great amount of votes over these first 2 weeks. Again, to vote, you can go to han.network. It'll be on the slider at the top of the screen. Let's take a break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, it is a Monday. We'll have highlights from our game of the week, Don, between Wilton and Fairfield Ludlow, and we'll wrap up the rest of the FCAC action in football after the break, right here on the HAN Network.
1, 2, 3, Abby! You know! I want to find out how good I am. Yes, sir! If you relax, you get blown out. Let's get it done! Let's get it done!
What can you take advantage of right now?
Again, come on. I can push myself way beyond what you think.
Trust your technique. Bring it back.
Connecticut is coming back to hometown banking. To a partner that makes small businesses feel big. Where community comes first. Where high-tech tools go hand in hand with a human touch. Where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver. Where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
At Mex on Main, Trumbull's very own Mexican grill, we're all about fresh, fast, and friendly service. Our Main Street restaurant offers the best in traditional and non-traditional Mexican dishes, with only the best ingredients, never frozen. From authentic burritos, fajitas, quesadillas, and salads, we have something on the menu for everyone in the family. And enjoy our open salsa bar, giving you more ways to customize your meal. Stop in for lunch or dinner at 6528 Main Street, Trumbull, or find out more at mexonmain.com.
When it comes to local entertainment, we've got it all.
From movies, local artists, etiquette, and more.
Watch HAN Arts and Leisure with me, Steve Coulter, and our Arts and Leisure editor, Sally Sanders, Mondays at 12:30, right here on the HAN Network.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Again, to vote for Athlete of the Week, you can go to han.network. It'll be at the top of the screen. But let's shift gears now, Don. Let's head over to the gridiron. We had our game of the week from Fairfield Ludlow High School on Friday night. The Wilton Warriors traveled to take on the Falcons in what turned out to be an old-fashioned ground and pound football game with some wet and windy conditions. It was a 34-7 win for the Warriors, powered by 5 rushing touchdowns to really keep Ludlow at bay. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that game Friday night.
Good evening and welcome to Fairfield Ludlow High School for the presentation of tonight's FCX matchup between the Wilton Warriors and the Fairfield Ludlow Falcons. It's a sneak from DeLisa heading for the goal line, falling forward, touchdown Warriors. In the gun, takes the snap. It's a direct run play for the quarterback. Working his way forward, heading to the goal line, touchdown Warriors. 2-by-2 set again, coming in motion. They go with the jet sweep. Hollow trying to get to the outside, and he's all the way in for the touchdown Falcons.
There he is again, number 5, Howell.
We're back here on the HAN Network. Fourth quarter set to kick off. The Warriors lead 20-7, but they're looking for more down at the 3-yard line. DeLisa under center, play action fake, rolling out to the right, being chased down, looking for help, dives for the goal line, touchdown Warriors. Under center with a wing and a tight end at the top of your screen. They go inside to Alexander. Fights his way forward, splitting through defenders, reaching for the end zone, touchdown Warriors. And that will be the last play of the game. The final score in this one is going to be Wilton 34 and Ludlow 7.
So there we see the highlights from that game. Don, it was never really raining. There was some on and off drizzle, but it was obviously a little slippery out there. It was a very sloppy game penalty-wise, though. It had that week 1, week 2 feel to it where there really wasn't a rhythm after what was one of the quickest first quarters we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a blustery day, kind of day where you really don't want to put the football in the air. It was almost like reminded me of what high school football was like when I was in high school. a lot of sweeps and runs up the middle. So old school football there on Friday.
And that was the Warriors' mentality straight from the gate. They came out and set the intention: we're going to dominate the line of scrimmage. It was good to see the defense bounce back after suffering that terrible loss against Staples the week before. After seeing this game, Don, how good do you think this Wilton Warriors team is?
I think they're pretty good. I wouldn't put them up there in that top echelon of teams in the FCAC right now. They're holding down 4th place in the East Division. I'd need to see them kind of play a little bit more consistently. In this case, I actually thought Ludlow played a decent game. Just they just had no answer for those for Wilton's running game, and that's just kind of the way it happens sometimes. Wilton set out to control the line of scrimmage, and they essentially did so, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So I would put Wilton maybe a step below the top 4, probably right around that St. Joseph level is where I would put the Warriors.
And it's good that you bring up St. Joseph. Our next game that we will cover after the bye weekend will be when Wilton travels to St. Joe's. That'll be Saturday on October 15th at 1 p.m. As we look at the schedule, Don, Wilton has got St. Joe's coming up. Let's stop for a second. We'll talk about that game. Where do the Warriors, St. Joe, if you were to set a pick right now, who has the advantage heading into that one? You've got 2 very different offenses, the ground and pound of Wilton versus the air out attack, and we're hearing talks of the best quarterback receiver combo in the state right now coming out of the cadets camp.
Right. At this moment, I would probably give a slight edge to St. Joseph. I think they've been. I think they've played a little bit better in some of their games, and also I think my general rule of thumb is the team that seems to score easier is kind of the team I'll go with. Certainly the big strike capability from St. Joe's versus Wilton with a very powerful running game, but you know, they've got to kind of maneuver their way down the field execute on a consistent basis. So I would give a slight edge to St. Joe's. Having said that, Wilton probably proves me wrong in 2 weeks.
And it'll be interesting to see. This will really be the first test for the Wilton secondary. They haven't faced a team yet that's going to air it out the way St. Joseph's did. Obviously, you can have success, or teams have had success on the ground against them. Fairfield Ward in week 1 almost was able to pull one out. Staples ran for over 400 yards against them. But you look down the schedule now, they've got Stanford left, Darien, Guilford out of conference, Danbury, and Trinity. Is it unrealistic to think that this is a Wilton team that could finish 8-2, 7-3, possibly even 8-2, Don?
It's not unrealistic. It's I would call it a long shot. I think 7-3 is optimistic, and things would have to break their way. 8-2 probably gets them into the Class L playoffs, but that's that's a long ways away. But I think they're definitely an above 500 team, and it wouldn't surprise me. With a win over St. Joe's, they get on a bit of a roll. Anything's possible.
They're definitely set up for success there, and one of the benefits that they will have, and it's definitely an advantage for them moving forward, if they run into any of those poor condition games, their offense is the quote-unquote fail-proof system that will work out in the wind and in the rain. Now, if we look over on the other side, and Ludlow losing its 4th straight game, they fall to 0-4. Up next is West Hill after the bye week. But, Dom, what does this young and developing Ludlow team have to do right now to get that first win of the year?
I think they just kind of have to what they need to do is just focus on fundamentals. I don't see any real inherent reason why Ludlow can't be a competitive team in the FCAC. They certainly there's talent, there's ability on the team. The pieces are there. I just tend to think that what happens is that my impression just from watching them play a couple times is that they tend to like if a break goes against them and then they kind of get a little bit panic is probably the wrong word, but they get a little bit down and then things snowball from there. They're not that far away. I mean these like that 34-7 game, I thought it was more competitive than that, but they're not that far away. Just a little, a focus on the details and just fundamentally sound football.
And I agree with that. It was a couple of breaks that really were the difference. They fall down 7-0. It might have been 14-0. I'll double check on this one, but then they get the huge kickoff return from Brian Hollows, a sophomore, all the way down inside the 5-yard line, called back for a block in the back on the far side of the field. They get an interception that looks like it's going to stop a Wilton drive, and a big return here to switch momentum. There's a pass interference called away from the intended receiver. It was little breaks like that at times, and again, just there was that sense of undiscipline amongst some of the younger players coming up. But
and even the opening drive of the game, they're moving right down the field, and then they just kind of stall out at the Warrior 20-yard line, and they're just. It seems strange to say, like week after week, we're like, they were just a couple of breaks away, but they really were.
They really were, and you've got a sophomore player in Hollows who's a do-it-all type of player. They use him in all 3 facets of the game, and he was, I thought, without a doubt, the best Falcons player on the field. Josh Evans looked confident throwing the football in the second half. His receivers were making catches. It was little mistakes that really put them into bad situations, and they don't have the experience yet to really recover from those situations.
Right. Coach Camara now has 2 weeks to get his team ready for West Hill. That is what I would call, that's definitely a winnable game for the Falcons. Then you have Trinity Catholic, Greenwich, Bridgeport Central, New Canaan, Ward. So there are potentially some winnable games on the schedule for Ludlow. They've just got to kind of just tighten up a little some of the facets of their game, and I think they can finish the season on a pretty good streak.
Again, Wilton now 3-1 on the season. Ludlow 0-4. FCAC games will resume the weekend of the 14th and 15th. The only game next weekend will be Staples versus NFA. Speaking of NFA, they took a beating from another FCAC team this past weekend. Let's take a break and we'll find out who it is right here on the HAN Network.
This is now 44 years I've been in this business. Digital came along. After I was in business for about 6 years, I had to totally reinvent the business. So I had to make a tremendous investment in my business. And Milford Bank was there for me. I don't really just consider Milford Bank a bank. I consider them a trusted partner in my business. My name is Jim Wilson, owner of Milford Photo. I choose to bank with Milford Bank.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Players have access to soccer, lacrosse, football, baseball and softball, field hockey, rugby, basketball, volleyball, and social game facilities. InSports has also launched an early childhood development program, a daycare and pre-K program all rolled into one. Don't miss out on the fun. Find out more at insportscenters.com or call 203-268-1214. Like and follow us on Facebook.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan. And you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier network. And we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. It is Monday, October 3rd. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in studio as we wrap up the remaining games of football from the FCX slate over the weekend. Let's start with an interesting one, Don. Greenwich 49, Central 22. The Hilltoppers hung around in this one for a while. Probably one of the few times this year we're going to say a disappointing 27-point victory.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Hilltoppers they hung around, they played tough. They don't have a lot of the depth of some of the other teams in the conference. That's going to be an issue for them throughout the year. But I think Central is a team that you might see improving. Last year, Ridgefield was the team. I mean, Ridgefield was the team that started off better than Central did this year. But Ridgefield was improving down the stretch, and at the end of the season was nowhere near the team they had been at the beginning of the season. I think you might say the same about Central because the talent is there. It's getting reps. It's going to be the issue.
And it's probably tough for a lot of our fans and even the players who are competing now to understand this is not a Central program who has always gone 0-for on seasons or even a one-win team. They're not all that far removed from a trip to the FCX championship back in 2009, where they had to beat a very good state champion New Canaan team 42-7 in the last week to get there. So it's a program with tradition, but I think with the way they've been trending lately, people were very shocked and impressed with the way the Hilltoppers played this weekend.
Yeah, and I was one of them. I kind of, looking at it, I thought, Granite scored 49 points, which is about what I expected. I didn't expect Central to put 22 back on the board against the Cardinals. So, so I think, I think Central really just, this was always going to be a year that they built toward next year. You heard them saying in the beginning of the year that they thought the talent level was back up, the numbers and participation was back up. With the year of experience under their belts, this could be a very good Central team next year.
Take a look now. One of the highly anticipated games from this past weekend, Ridgefield against Norwalk. Norwalk started 2-0. They just lost to Trinity. Looking to bounce back, prove they belong with the top of the conference. Ridgefield came out from the get-go, 43-0, shutting out the Bears. They did it again without Drew Fowler. The Tigers' lone blemish is against the Rams right now, Don, but this is a scary Ridgefield team with the way they've been playing.
You know, it really is. You know, it was they had the impressive win over Trumbull, and we thought to ourselves, you know, is Ridgefield really that good? How good also can they be? I think this Ridgefield team is very good, and they're playing very well as they head into the meat of the schedule.
They'll have a couple big games coming up, but it's a team that many expect to be in the LL playoffs when we get to the end of the year. St. Joe's and Danbury, the Cadets with a 21-0 win over the Hatters. They'll be featured in 2 weeks when they host the Wilton Warriors, a battle of 3-1 teams, and all the talk right now about quarterback Corey Babineau and receiver Jared Malazzi as what might be the most lethal combination in the entire state.
Yeah, certainly those two. You know, those two are very tough to spot, particularly when he has time to step in and throw. That's just it's an outstanding combination for Danbury. Got a couple of weeks to try and get it back together, but certainly not off to an 0-4 start. Not the way they wanted to begin their season.
No, very shocking too. It was a Hatters team with a lot of talent. Next up, we had the first of the 3 undefeated teams remaining in the FCIAC. That was Staples, who had no problem cruising to a 35-6 win over Fairfield Ward. Before we get to Staples' success, Fairfield Ward just cannot get it going, Don.
No, they really can't. You know, just not too much to say about this game. It was just kind of one of those almost like an early season mismatch. This one was not really ever competitive.
0-4 are the Mustangs. They'll host Harding in 2 weeks coming out of the bye. As for Staples, though, they continue to roll, find themselves at 4-0, moving along. They'll have NFA as they go, are the only game on the FCX slate this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, NFA obviously took to heart the criticism from people thinking that the CCC schedule helped them out, particularly with a lot of the games against predominantly Class M and Class S schools. NFA with just kind of really scheduled themselves a very tough schedule with Xavier week 1, and then Darien, Staples, a couple of other tough games. Credit to them for taking the challenge, but it looks like it's not quite paid off the way they hoped it would.
And Staples has played very well at the start of the year, but credit a little bit of help from their schedule. After NFA, they have Stanford, and then the final 4 weeks of the year, they go to Tiger Hollow, host St. Joe's, host Darien, at Greenwich. It will be a very daunting finish to the season as Staples will push to make the playoffs for the second year in a row.
Yeah, Staples in all likelihood has a very good chance of coming into that last stretch of 4 games at 6-0. And then, in the Class AA playoffs, 8-2 is possible to get in, but really you'd like to have 9 wins in Class AA.
Next game on the schedule, Trumbull 24, Trinity Catholic 14. Trumbull pulled away down the stretch and might have put the nail in the coffin on the Crusaders' season in doing so. Trinity now 1-3. Trumbull has bounced back since an opening weekend loss to Ridgefield. They are now 3-1, Don.
Yeah, Trumbull has to just be kicking themselves for that Ridgefield loss. They could be 4-0. We could be talking about them tied with New Canaan atop that Western division. Again, yes, they've bounced back spectacularly well. They've played very well. They really are. They were 1 or 2 plays away from being talked about as potential FCIAC champions.
They've got 2 weeks now to get ready for Greenwich in what will be a very exciting game on on Saturday afternoon from Cardinal Stadium. Moving down the list, that brings us to Stanford and McMahon, one of the more exciting games this past weekend. 20-18, the Black Knights came out on top. Stanford looked like they had this one locked up. McMahon scores late. Stanford's got to stop a 2-point conversion to hold on and get the win.
Yeah, just a tough break for McMahon as they fall to 0-4 in that FCIAC Eastern Division. They're tied with Danbury and Ward at the bottom of the Eastern Division, and a good win for Stanford. Stanford's a team. Splitting Stanford with West Hill High School, it's always going to be a challenge for them. Nice win, I thought, as Stanford moves to 3-1.
So going to Saturday then, you've got Darien out of conference against NFA and the Blue Wave and the FCIAC. Too much to handle. 45-7, the final in that one. The Wave comes back after that Greenwich game, able to roll now, and they're back up with that momentum, staying undefeated.
Yeah, and NFA, unfortunately, their second blowout loss to one of the premier schools in the state, losing to, they lost to Xavier 35-0 to open the season. Now a 45-6 beating from Darien. As I said, it's a courageous schedule. Didn't quite work out the way they'd hoped.
And the final score from the weekend, New Canaan and West Hill. It didn't rain as much as the critics would have liked to have seen. The Rams too much, though. Again, freshman Drew Pine with a big game for them. They win 35-7. Sophomore running back J.R. Moore added 2 touchdowns on the game. This is the second time this year we've seen him score at least 2. The Rams offense, it's not the high passing attack that we are used to, but they are getting it done just with a very balanced run game and short, efficient passes.
Yeah, and also a very stout defense, as we saw on display again. New Canaan, just trying to take a quick peek at their schedule here. They have Danbury in a couple of weeks, so it looks like it's kind of a conducive schedule to them continuing to roll a little bit.
Well, after Danbury, we'll be live then from Dunning Stadium. They will host the Greenwich Cardinals October 21st. Johnny Marinelli making his return. Trumbull and Greenwich could go either way right now, but we do expect to see a 4-1 Cardinals team, a 5-0 New Canaan team, and what will be one of the more interesting and high scoring, you would think, based on the way Greenwich played against Darien in a couple weeks.
You would think so, especially considering that, as you mentioned, as close as that Darien game was, we've been saying to ourselves, well, how good is New Canaan compared to Darien? Greenwich, obviously, in this case, the measuring stick to see just where those two programs stand, and of course, Greenwich themselves, they still feel that they have a lot to say about who's going to come on top in the FCIAC.
So as we head into the bye week, let's take a look at the football standings in the FCIAC, and we start with that West Division. New Canaan, the only undefeated team in the division, 4-0. Greenwich, Ridgefield, and Trumbull, though, all right there lurking. Trumbull and Ridgefield have played each other. New Canaan and Ridgefield have played each other. Other than that, though, these teams all still need to play throughout their schedule. Norwalk coming off the loss 2-2, and just I think a lot of people are very surprised seeing Trinity fall to 1-3. They were expected to compete not only at the top of the FCIAC, but to be in the hunt for a Class S state title at the end of the year, Don.
Right. Off to a 1-3 start, the Class S state playoff hopes probably have now gone by the wayside. Class S, you can usually, if you get in with 2 wins, you've got a good shot. 3 is just asking an awful lot. Now their schedule could help them out, predominantly playing Class AA schools the rest of the way. That's just an awful lot of ground to make up, though. They're going to need a lot of help.
So top heavy at the West. We take a look at the East, and it is just as top heavy right now. Staples and Darien both 4-0. Darien, of course, having already played their out-of-conference game. Stanford, 3-1. One of the more surprising teams to see up at the top of the list right now. They'll have matchups with all of these top teams down the stretch. So we could be talking about the Black Knights in a couple weeks as one of the more surprising, shocking teams in the hunt for the state playoffs. Wilton and St. Joe's both 3-1. We will have that game when we get back out of the break, Don, but we knew how competitive the FCIAC would be, and we're now at the point of the schedule where we're going to see teams start to pick each other off, and what looks like could be 7 or 8 teams qualifying for the state playoffs might wean itself down to 4.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the schedule really starts to get very, very intriguing. You're going to start having really matchups every week that are going to have a big influence on the standings, and a lot of these teams, as you mentioned, going to start playing each other now. It's as you said, it's the leaves are turning, weather's getting a little bit cooler. It's time to start playing meaningful football games.
It's going to be a lot of fun. They get a week off to recover, catch their breaths, and then we hit the ground running for the second half of the football season. Don and I are back tomorrow. We'll have wrap up from the rest of the action throughout the rest of the sports in the FCIAC. Don't forget to vote for Athletes of the Week. We've got the drive with Denise tomorrow, and as always, coffee break at 11. Not with Kate Czaplinski. It's her birthday. We gave her the day off right here on the HAN Network.